Hey there, I'm Mrs. KWBurgess, and our lesson today is about a topic that probably affects you every day in some way, whether you realize it or not. Have you ever been paid a compliment, but because of the person's word choice, it didn't really come off as a compliment, but rather an insult? Or worse, have you ever said something to your parents, and they took it the wrong way because of one particular word you chose to use? If you have ever experienced something like this, it was probably because of a word's connotation. Denotation and connotation. What are you trying to say? These are the key terms we will be discussing today. They are also mentioned in the literacy standards of the Common Core, which say to determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in the text, including figurative and connotative meanings. So, our objective today is to determine how words can have different connotative meanings. Let's take a look at what I meant earlier when I said maybe someone tried to pay you a compliment, but instead you ended up offended. Which of these two compliments would you rather receive? Amy is so extraordinary. Not only is she confident, but also energetic and clever. Or perhaps this one. Amy is so strange. Not only is she arrogant, but also wild and cunning. Let's think about the words used here in the first sentence. Amy is described as extraordinary, but strange in the second. Which would you rather be? Most of us would say it's extraordinary, which means not ordinary. But wait, isn't that also what strange means? Not ordinary? These two words share the same meaning or definition, which we call denotation. Yet people view these two terms in very different ways. Extraordinary is seen as positive and strange as negative. This is what we mean by connotations, or the emotions or implications associated with a word. So of course we decided extraordinary has positive connotations and strange, negative connotations. Same with the next word pair. Confidence is viewed as a good trait to possess, but arrogance is something that turns people off. The next pair makes me think of a kindergarten teacher who doesn't want to tell a parent that his or her child is wild. So instead, the teacher tries to put a more positive spin on it by using the word energetic. Again, same denotation or meaning, but different implications associated with each word. Finally, the pair of terms clever and cunning both mean that someone is intelligent, but clearly clever is the more positive of the two, with cunning probably making people feel that a person is smart, yet has ulterior motives. So let's review. Denotation is a word's literal meaning or dictionary definition. I remember this because denotation starts with a D, as does dictionary and definition. However, despite what a word denotes, what it literally means, it can have a much different connotation. Connotation is what people think or feel when they hear a word. It can be defined as either the emotions associated with a word or social or cultural implications of a word. How people feel about a word because of where they are from, how they were raised, or what their culture and traditions are. Connotations can make it difficult for people who learn a second language. While a person may understand how to pronounce words and what the words mean, he or she may not understand the different connotations associated with a word, and therefore may be misunderstood or even end up offending someone. So let's look at an example. The pair of words daring and reckless. When defined in a dictionary, they essentially mean the same thing, correct? Daring means willing to do dangerous or difficult things, showing a lack of fear. Reckless, very similar, not showing proper concern about the possible bad results of your actions, marked by lack of proper caution. But the way these words make you feel, or the ideas you have about these words, is totally different. Someone who is daring may also be thought of as brave, bold, adventurous, or perhaps even standing up for what is right. All positive attributes, right? But how about someone who is reckless? What characteristics come to mind? Maybe careless, impulsive, maybe even crazy or stupid. All negative. Both of these words share the same denotation, the same definition, but their connotations are much different. Let's look at one more word pair. The word Hollywood. We know that Hollywood is literally a section of LA where there's a booming movie industry. But when we hear that word, most of us think of the lifestyle of that town. Some positive connotations, fame, glamour, wealth, fulfilled dreams, and some negative, drama, tragedy, deception, substance abuse. So connotations can really depend on a person's background or experience. Words can therefore sometimes have both positive and negative connotations. Speaking of Hollywood, let's look at how writers in Hollywood carefully crafted some of the most famous movie lines in history. Each word of these lines was specifically chosen for a purpose. Whether they were aware of it or not, the writers chose these words based on their connotations. Imagine how different, and probably less memorable and impactful, they would be had they chosen to change just one single word.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no,
Wake up, honey.
there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no
Dorothy, dear. It's Aunt Em, darling.
Oh, Annie Em, it's you.
At the end of Wizard of Oz, imagine if the word home had been substituted for dwelling or house or even crib. Not that that word was used to describe a house during the time the movie was produced, but again, think of the connotations of that word today. All of these words denote the same thing, but clearly, home has the most positive connotations as some place that is warm, comforting, and constant. Dwelling and house are more neutral, while crib is more casual. Let's look at the next clip.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! I'm bigger than you, I'm higher in the food chain! Get in my belly! Come on!
The Austin Powers movies are comedies, so of course they chose a word like belly with humorous connotations instead of more neutral terms like abdomen and stomach. Even gut doesn't work here, although it sometimes has humorous connotations. We use it in serious terms when we say things like, I had a gut feeling. No one would take you seriously if you said, I had a belly feeling. Belly is clearly the best choice here in regards to humorous connotations. Let's look at the next clip.
Say hello to my little friend!
This is an extremely violent scene from Scarface, and although friend usually has positive connotations, it is much less positive when compared to other synonyms that share the same meaning, such as pal. Yet words that were more neutral, like companion or ally, don't seem to fit here either. Sometimes connotations of words in certain situations are hard to explain, but the word choice is just better. And finally, probably one of the most famous lines from a movie.
Now. He's looking at you, kid.
In Casablanca, how different would this scene have been if Rick had said to Ale, here's looking at you, youngster. Juvenile. Here's looking at you, lass. She probably would have laughed or rolled her eyes, or maybe even given him a good slap on the face. Kid was simply the right word choice here. Not too serious, yet not too condescending. Instead, it's endearing. This says, I think a lot of you, and wish you the best. Now let's review. Denotation is a word's literal meaning or dictionary definition, while a word's connotation refers to the emotions associated with that word, sometimes based on social or cultural implications. And of course, we've talked many times about how connotation can either be positive or negative, or sometimes both in some cases. These terms will help us move into discussions about nuances and diction in the future. So as you write or speak, or as you listen to conversations or watch TV or movies, think about word choice and the connotations of those words, and how they may have a negative or positive impact on the reader or audience.